Hey, I'm Jim Corry. I've been doing miniature painting on and off since the mid '90s. Not a whole lot of experience overall since most of them were Reaper back in the '90s and Pewter. So I took a long break with all the D&D mini prints, but I'm happy to be getting back into the hobby and super excited to be here today. I love painting for charity. I love doing anything for a charity, and I love doing it on stream even more. So got some good friends here with me. Can't be and can get any better than that. Sounds like they can't hear you.
Oh,
It's okay. Nobody wants to hear from the host, anyways. Who want to go next? Fenway. And while you're figuring that out, Chet, we'll go ahead and move on to the next person. Fenway, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? What's your handle? Where can we find you? What are you working on?
Absolutely. So, my name's Fenway. I go by Fenway the Teen DM on Twitter or Jasper's Game Day on Instagram and Facebook. I run Jasper's Game Day, and I've only been painting for a little while, but it's a lot of fun. So, I'm glad to be able to watch these lovely folks paint as well.
Oh, and first off,
you-
can everybody hear me? I'm just checking. I have now audio spiking on mine, so it looks like it should be working. Thank you, Bellig. Yes, they can hear me. Great. Corry and Fenway, can you also show us what you are painting today?
Well, I just took it apart.
Then you can describe for us. Be descriptive.
Well, I've got another duplicate here, a King with two prepared because I'm just that kind of guy. I got some Hell Blasters here for Morris. Yep. That's about it.
Yeah, Corry and I are both doing Space Marines. Fenway, I'm very happy about yours.
I'm starting the Blue Dragon from the D&D WizKids.
Norzel's Marvelous Pigments or Paints.
Yes, that one.
Yes.
Such cool sculpts. So they've been sitting in my shopping cart for on Amazon for probably a month and a half now, just waiting because they're $25. It's just such a good price for a mini that's that iconic.
Correct. I have some much more expensive miniatures that are I'm dying to pull the trigger on, but I just don't.
Right.
And Dwight, you're also joining us today. We won't forget you.
Hey everybody. I'm Dwight. You can find me on Twitter as the Big Bearded Nerd, Instagram at Big Bearded Nerd also. You can find me. I paint on every other Monday night with Jake, MTD Jake, on Beards and Brushes. We'll be doing our second episode this coming Monday. And yeah, so I've been painting off and on for several years, pretty consistently for the last couple of years. And it's kind of like my Zen thing that I do when I have a bad day at work. I can just get lost in these minis and paint, which I really enjoy. I am working on the Space Marine Captain that I'm just doing some detailing work on. I painted him up a while ago, and I figured it'd be a good time to work on some of the. I don't usually paint things past I call it a table ready plus. So I like to paint them so that they look good on the table and maybe a little bit of flourish to it. But this one I'm just working on putting some extra details and whatnot on there, just practicing that tonight. So
awesome. Very excited to
have you guys. What are some of the details you're doing on there? That's super exciting.
So
what's your plus?
So I'll show you my plus. So before today, the sword, I painted some details on that. I did some some wet blending on his cape, on the back of his cape here. I just like to play around with stuff. I probably would drive a lot of 40K collectors insane because none of my stuff matches. Because everything's a new project to me. I don't paint things all 7 at once. I tend to paint 1 or 2 at a time, and they don't match because I get creative with them. And but I don't play. I don't play much. I don't obviously get into any kind of painting competitions. These are just my projects, and I like to put them on the shelf. So I'm doing some edge trim and some other just highlights today that I don't typically do. Just trying to work on that skill a little bit. So I figured this guy's one of the, he'll be one of the more. I have a table full of blood angels that are table ready, looking nice, and then a couple of my bigger pieces I want to put some detail on. So
you and I are in that same boat of I like painting these models because they're fun, and as much as I dislike some of the price point of GW, their models are fun to paint.
yeah.
So but I don't play, so I basically, the plus side is I buy a model set and then paint it, and then I'm done until I find another model set that I really like.
Right.
I don't have to worry about updating the same models again because the new rules came out. But then what happens is like a really cool set comes out and you're like, dang it, I don't want to spend another $200, but
Yeah, that's kind of where I am. I have this, and I have a Star Wars Legion set that I've been working on for a little over a year now, and it's just whatever between this Legion and D&D figures, just whatever my mood is for the day, I'll pick up something and work on that.
Yeah. So far, I haven't found much in Legion that I haven't enjoyed. Like, right now, my last stream, I worked on these fellas. I've got a little Wookiee Legion expansion that I've been playing around with, and I'm the same way. Like, I didn't do a typical batch paint on those. I did each one. I had a little bit of fun with just playing around with different dry brushing on them, because they're probably never going to be on the table, but if they are, they'll be interesting.
Right.
They're not going to be rank and file, but they'll be interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of with those. I did my stormtroopers, because I got the starter kit, and I did my stormtroopers and my rebel soldiers just as kind of a speed paint with a little bit of detail, and then I did Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker with as much detail as I felt comfortable putting in there. But again, it's just more what's fun to paint and what strikes my creative bone for the day. So yeah.
That's a good blend, by the way.
Thank you.
What's the power sword? Is this an NPC?
Are you asking questions about the game itself or the
model you're painting?
Oh, yeah, he's just he's a Space Marines captain off of the what is the name of the kit?
Dark Imperium?
Yes.
I got that sitting right here. That's what I'm painting out of too.
Yeah.
It's like 56 models for $130. Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly why I got it. I'm like,
and it
bang
comes
for the
with
buck.
a book.
Yep.
I got a really cool deal when I was working with a couple of game companies recently, and they had what's the name of that? So they had Silver Tower that they had a copy of, and they just couldn't they just couldn't get rid of it essentially, which I was like, there's a lot of models in there from early Age of Sigmar re-release, right? And so I said, I'll take it. What do you want for it? And they gave it to me for actually less than half price. I got the entire game, the board game, for I think it was $50, and it's a $140 game, I think.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Yeah, and I was like, sweet, okay. So I haven't even broken it open, but I need to paint that, and I need to paint Warcry box set, because I got the Warcry set that has all the terrain, because I really want to do some big terrain pieces.
I went down to the Warhammer shop thinking I was going to buy some freaking Nuln oil. I had an experiment I want to talk about a little bit today, but I wanted to buy some Nuln oil because it's on like every piece of metal in the painting guides and the tutorial videos. They're all talking about it. Oh, just slap some Nuln oil on there, it'll look great. and you put it in all your crevices, and that's basically the lesson of the day. Put it in all your crevices.
Yep.
Because I've got the D&D Norzel's Magnificent Pigments starter set, which is like 26 paints or something like that, and it came with the Shadow Wash. It's a little tiny bottle of the Shadow Wash, and I got the Null Oil, and I put them side by side.
Oh no.
I shaded. I did a wet blend from a blue to a white, and just shaded over the top of it, and then did a white dry brush. When it was just the Null Oil versus the Shadow Wash, I will say that the Null Oil flowed a little bit better, like minor level flow better. Pigment, color, transparent, like translucency, everything was identical. Like, could not tell the difference looking at them over the top of everything. And the Shadow Wash is so much cheaper.
That was my question: is how much cheaper was it?
Well, the Shadow Wash, if you buy it by itself, is like $3 for $3 or $4 for the Army Painter makes these. I'm trying to see how many ounces are in this thing.
See, that's the key. It's an Army Painter.
It's a standard Army Painter ml bottle.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely not as much as in the Null Oil with from Games Workshop. But yeah, so I guess they're probably on par. But I don't know. I got the big bottle of the Null Oil.
The Army Painter, just in general, I've enjoyed their washes a lot better. They also make some of the best like heavy ink washes. I pretty much have always had a bottle of the Army Painter Strong Tone nearby because it is just such a fantastic wash, and it is very cheap. And if you just want to add that kind of a darker, dirtier, like grungy look to anything, you just slap some of that on there, and it looks like it's been through a battle, like immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the flesh wash?
No. They have they make a range of kind of brown black combo washes that range from like a light tone up to a strong tone, and then there's a really dark tone, which is essentially Null Oil, but or what you have. The difference is yours is the D&D branded one, and then but they're the exact same thing exists without the D&D brand, and I think it's even slightly cheaper and comes in a larger bottle. Like you can get strong tone in cans, like the little round deals.
Oh yeah, the dip buckets.
Yeah, the dip buckets. Yeah, and those things are amazing. We have some questions. Bellig has questions. What do you find the most difficult about painting minis? I'm going to Fenway for this one because you haven't talked to me, Fenway.
I don't know. I guess personally, it's the attention span. Because sometimes it can take a lot longer than me being a teenager. I have a shorter attention span, but I really do think I think the detail work is also really can be difficult.
That both of those are true. The time aspect, for me, it becomes finding the time, because when you're doing work and family and all the stuff, it gets really hard if you don't make yourself like spend some time doing your hobby. It can be really hard to find the extra time to do it.
Yeah.
The attention span, quite often if I'm doing a lot of pieces for like a commission or something, I have Netflix on the whole time, and I just watched the vast majority of Castlevania while I painted an army. So like that's usually my downtime method. Dwight, what about you?
Oh, hardest thing. I think for me is just being satisfied with what I've, you know, I tend to over tinker. Like I'll get something and I'm like, that looks really good, and I want to play around with it some more, and all of a sudden I don't like the way it looks. So right now, that's the hardest thing for me. It's just knowing when to quit playing around with it. And then I will echo Fenway on this. It's just the detail work, especially like edge highlights and things like that. Just the brush control that you need for that kind of stuff is something I'm having to practice a lot at right now.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things like you talked about, like that's also not, that is definitely not a strictly table ready or table good enough plan. So if you want to do all that edge highlighting, I'm with you. Like I did one of the early AOS box sets with all of the gosh dang it, their name just completely left me. The knights, the golden blue
Stormcast
Eternals? Stormcast Eternals, those guys. And all the edge highlighting was just such
These guys?
No, I loved painting them, and I tried to go for like the box art kind of style, just because I wanted to play around with hitting those marks and not just doing it my own way, because I have a couple of cheats that I do, and I'll talk about those as I'm doing this model, because I'm working on one of my cheats right now, which is I'm making it look metallic without ever really doing anything exotic. I'll get to that, but I wanted to try to go like maximum effort, and edge highlighting that many pieces is so hard, and I'm like, this is why people don't get into painting, is because they think this is painting, but that's not painting.
Right.
That is like I said, that is maximum effort. If you wanted to go for like, I'm ready to play, it is not necessary to go that hard.
I saw a video painting your minis only with Sharpies, and I so want to do it. So bad.
If anybody wants to see like a combination of maximum try hard versus like the least amount possible, Uncle Adam, ATOM on YouTube, is a really funny guy and interesting to watch. He does get a little bit existential on his like hobbying ideas, but regardless, he talks about like one day he got bored and was just like, how good can I paint these with rattle cans only? Because I don't want to go buy anything new. So worked out some techniques to try to make it look like they were kind of airbrushed, but really it was just rattle cans and a couple of pieces of cardboard to prevent overspray. And I'm like, we need to have more people at the table that are able to just do that. Just go, okay, all I want to do is fight you. So I'm going to go grab these off the shelf, glue them together, and then I'm going to spray them with 3 different colors of rattle can. 3 color minimum, and we're going to just go.
Right.
That's been my approach for D&D minis too.
Yeah, my thing is, one of my favorite things about mini painting is when I'm showing them to people that don't know anything about them. And they don't know the tricks you use to get details to pop and things like that. And they're like, oh, I can't believe you painted all of that.
You're like, no, I didn't.
I'm like, I mean, I did, but I mean, it's usually just a wash and a dry brush. So, or something. Yeah,
because people don't understand that, like, when you look at some of the like greatest paintings in the world, like, I mean, especially if you look like a Jackson Pollock, right? Looks like that guy really like just did something random, when honestly most of his stuff is pretty deliberate. Whereas like I was like, I'm the opposite. Legitimately, everything that you see that looks really deliberate was probably random happenstance, because I know how dry brushing works, and so the highlights go where they're supposed to go, and the wash goes where it's supposed to go. And once all those things blend together nicely, you get something that looks maximum effort with, with a lot less. And that's kind of what I like about the hobby in general. That was one question, and we took like how long on that? Sorry. Let's see what else we've got. We have. Do you put a personal signature or symbol on any of your minis? Anybody want to field that one? My answer is no.
Yeah, I have not done that yet, but
Unless you have your own chapter.
yeah.
I guess that could count for 40K.
Yeah, no, I can't say that I've ever done anything that specific. What style do you like the most, such as dark and gritty, cartoony, realistic, anything of that nature? Corey, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I like photorealism in everything, just because it I don't know, there's a finesse to it. You're going for maximum effort, and apparently in 40K miniatures, maximum effort is edge highlighting the F out of everything, and so that's what I'm doing. Even though it's not photoreal, it's tabletop real. It's as real as it's going to get with these miniatures. So I'm learning and buffing up on my edge highlighting, and oof.
Yes, yes. Oof is the correct answer. Oh, yes. I'm sorry that Poon is not emceeing. I'm very that should be the case, and it just didn't happen this time. So we will be better prepared next time. Bellig was asking about that because Poon is an amazing MC, and Poon, I love you very much, and you will have to do this with us next time. I was not prepared.
Give him a brush.
Huh?
Give him a brush.
Give Poon crafting materials. You'll get something far more interesting.
A brush is a crafting material.
Oh, Poon, sad day. So my entire desk is reorganized, and I was looking around here and I was trying to find out where Susie went, and I can't find her. So she's in a box here nearby, but Susie is missing at the moment. We had a craft off a while back, and everybody had to make a unicorn ornament, like a not exactly a Christmas ornament, but something like that. From just the materials they had chosen at random before the stream, and so I had like googly eyes and cardboard and some clothespins. So I made a clothespin unicorn puppet, and her name was Susie, and she's from New Jersey. Yeah, it was super fun. Yes, Candy, come paint with us. You should join us on a stream very, very soon. And at the very least, you should definitely paint with CA, because CA needs people to paint with too. CA needs to be painting with us all the time because she's an amazing painter. She hasn't told you guys this because she just wants to keep all of her many skills a secret. But we did a paint and take, or I guess it was a paint and give back. I don't know. We were painting at PAX U, a bunch of us Thread Raiders and friends of Thread Raiders, and Corry was there with us as well. Both in spirit and in the building, but he had to
I do get a haircut.
Had to take off and get a haircut as we started painting. We were painting a bunch of pieces from Fallout, and and CA did the Deathclaw, and it is gorgeous. It is absolutely amazing. So CA, next time you're going to be running this thing. And Poon will be our moderator.
I'm gonna fire up my airbrush here in a minute.
Do you where? So before you do that, where's your air compressor?
Right behind me.
Oy vey.
Well, it's super quiet, but
oh, is it?
I
That's
can
sweet.
mute.
No, you're totally fine. But I was gonna say mine is a bit of a hog, so it makes a lot of noise.
Oh no, I bought mine. It's only 1/5 horsepower.
I have a pretty small. I have two. Mine actually ended up going out in the garage because I put together a painting station out there so that I can vent it. And I made a little booth for catching all the back spray and stuff.
I tried that out of cardboard and it didn't go so well. But I'm still throwing a tantrum. I don't want to spend $150.
Don't go buy 1/4-inch MDF, and I'll help you out with the plans if you want. Because all I did was took my little jigsaw and cut out some 1/4-inch MDF panels and made a little. I cut it in Coliseum style, where it's really small at the back and big at the front. And that's it. Glued it and put some brad nails in it, and that's what I'm using as my backdrop.
Definitely the way to go.
And like a panel of 1/4-inch MDF, I think is only I think mine was like $10 or $15.
Yeah, no, it's super cheap. I've actually got access to a laser cutter too, so that might be a viable option. Build something.
I was gonna say all you need is glue and clamps or glue and tiny nails. Both work great.
Hobby level woodworker can probably get it done.
Mm-hmm.
I hope.
I've been in the wood shop a lot lately, getting things done. We just needed, our whole house needed a purge. So, let's see. Do we have more questions? Let's see. Looks like that was the last. Oh, we didn't go through everybody. So, Corry likes hyperrealism, right? And Dwight, what's your preference?
I'll say yes. Again, for me, I would say so. Like the aesthetic of 40K is probably the thing is what I like the best. I don't know what it is about just the way those models look. But that would probably be the top of my list. But for me, it's more about when I see a model that just, again, it inspires me in some way. That's what I want to paint. And so it's, I haven't done a lot on the cartoonish side, aside from just like funny, outlandish color palettes occasionally. But so yeah, I guess maybe more the realistic, long-winded answer, but I've not really thought a whole lot about what my favorite is or why. It's more just about what looks like it would be fun to paint.
Yeah. I like experimenting with things, but I don't know what I would consider my preference. I usually have kind of an image in my head of what I think is going to look good. And I would say most of my stuff does end up having a certain amount of grit to it. So I like to make something that I actually will start off by trying to make it look as new as possible. So like with this guy, I'm trying to get the orange paint scheme for the metallic as solid and strong and opaque as possible from the get-go, so I get this really nice clean look, and then I muss it up. That's usually where I go to start with. I definitely think like the 40K for the 40K design style is not probably my favorite because it does usually start from, well, at least for the Space Marines. I guess if you're doing orcs and some of the darker like stuff, you get into more grit. But the Space Marines look like they've never seen a battle. Like most people when they do typical Space Marines, it's like
super clean,
crisp lines, all of that. And I definitely prefer to make it look like something has happened.
Yeah, I like painting mud and dirt and battle marks, things like that. And I think a lot of that comes from because I started off painting D&D figures, then I moved into Legion, and I learned that. I don't know if anybody's ever watched Sarastro.
Yeah. Sarastro's painting stuff for. He did a set on what's that? What's the really dark, gritty one that I was thinking of? Go on, I'll think of it eventually.
Yeah, but that's where I started. I started watching him when I started painting Legion, and that's kind of I just like that. Like I'm gonna paint this and make it look like it's actually on Endor in a battle right now. So yeah, I like where you're going with that.
Yeah.
I've been seeing quite a bit of that come up in the threads over on Instagram, where people are actually intentionally like decoupaging and wrecking edges, and there's a lot of videos on YouTube on how to do that. And like watch it. I actually saw one this yesterday. I commented on it. It was a Rex, a Titanus Rex.
Yeah, Titanicus. Yeah,
Titanicus, right? Like this massive $140 figurine, and standing on top of it is an Invictus or whatever, like the boxy robot, and you got like $300 worth of plastic sitting there, and one of them is a base model.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like just the basing.
I would much rather see that used in that way than necessarily use it for anything because I love dioramas. I love making like a scene from what I'm doing, rather than making models that like I've thought about doing, super like battle ready models where you magnetize all the arms and you've got all the options available to you and all that kind of stuff. But I'm like, I would never care for that as much as I care for like the time that I do one where it's just I cut off a couple of heads from a skew and just throw them onto the base, and it looks like pretty sick.
Yep.
That to me would be more fun of a use for all the extra pieces than magnetizing them for later use. I realize that's kind of a very specific scenario. I know that only people that really are very excited about the game want to do much in the way of magnetizing, but
I assumed it was because your figurines keep breaking when you're transporting them for tournament. But
no,
why do people magnetize the
so
components?
There's a couple of reasons. So a lot of people, I'll start with this. A lot of people magnetize the bottoms because now there's a lot of people who are carrying cases that have metal strips in them, so that you can take. So you not only put them inside of the foam case, but you put the strip of metal on the bottom so that when they set them down inside of their hole in the foam base, they are also stuck magnetized and can't move. And many of them actually have started doing it where they suspend them upside down, magnetized, just to keep them steady in flight. But then the magnetizing the arms allows you to swap out different armaments.
Okay.
So
Cool.
if you wanted this model to instead carry 2 blasters, right? That's a different role set. So before the game, you are allowed, when you register for a game, you don't have to know which army you're going to use. There's a lot of things you don't have to have prepared. You just have to make sure you have a listing when you're ready to start. And so a lot of people will, before they finalize their listing, they'll check out their competitors, swap out different arms on the same models instead of having 20 of one model, right? And buying all that plastic, you magnetize so you can swap them. Because especially when they used to do a lot more highly posable miniatures, now they're GW's kind of sticking towards more of the push fit models, which are pre-armed and you really can't change out the armaments after they've been done. But that's why people like a lot of the older GW stuff, is because they will magnetize and do some cool change up options.
I kind of feel bad now. I've been hardcore judging on Games Workshop because, especially I did not go looking even really too much into Gene Stealers because, yeah, they have some really cool NPCs in there, but you buy this $80 model for one thing, and it's actually 3 different things depending on how you build it, like the Brood Lord or whatever it is. And so you build it, and then you're sitting there with all these extra components that you'll never use that are sitting on the sprig, and that sounded like a huge waste to me. These really cool parts to make you go and buy more. If you can magnetize them, that sounds...
Magnetizing is one option, or my favorite thing is you need to start a bits bin. Every time that you get anything that comes off a skew, put it to the side until you're done with that model. I'm trying to find, like I said, I just reorganized my entire desk, and so things are missing. But
I don't know, how loud is this? Can you hear it?
No, I can't hear it at all.
That's
wow.
good.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that is phenomenal. I have a little thing here somewhere of bits from a model I just picked up from the dice company. I cannot think of their name at the moment. But I put all their bits into a little container because you can basically buy one model, but it comes with all these different options on it, and then all the extra pieces have extra arms, extra weapons, things like that. Toss them into bits bin, and later on down the road, if you want to build a little, say you want to build a little marker for a campaign, and you want it to be an arms rack or something, you can take all those extra guns, file off the hands on them, right, and then plop them on a little skewer rack or something, and now you have a little rack of guns, that your players can then get to and use as an objective marker. There's all sorts of things that you can use those extra bits for, and there's even people who go online and actually sell highly required bits. It's a whole separate economy of bit pieces and finding the right pieces for the build you want. It's kind of fun. Also, kit bashing. You can use them for kit bashing if you decide you want to play around. I saw a really cool kit bash idea of for war. It wasn't Warcry. It was the 40K version. Something Strike. Can't remember off the top. Know which one? The micro army
yeah, I know what you're talking about, and I can't think of what it's called.
And this guy decided that his Necrons were actually a hit squad, and their whole goal was just to kill as many Space Marines as physically possible. And so what he did was he took all the extra honor medallions that he had lying around from different kits and just plastered them all over his strike team. And so each medallion was was their way of counting their hits. How many Space Marines they've killed.
What's the medallion?
So these purity medallions that come
Oh, this
on the
okay,
Space
yeah.
Marines.
Purity seal. Yeah.
Yeah, the purity
seals.
yeah, the purity
That's
seal.
why I'm like medallions. Is that the like transfers or something?
No, yeah,
You
no,
guys
the
are-
purity seals. Sorry.
No, I'm so new. I don't even freaking know, man.
I don't play. I just know random things. Also, Bellig, you are not old enough to not learn things. If you ever want to just sit down and paint, let me know. We'll do a hangout. Maybe actually, all of us should hang out at some point. You, me, and CA, and some folks, and just do a group paint.
I will tell you my rallying cry whenever I paint, and what's kept me going the last few years is, it's my favorite quote from my favorite show, Jake the dog. Sucking at something is the first step to being sort of good at something.
Very true.
So you gotta, and I mean, just same with mini painting. You start somewhere and you keep practicing, and next thing you know, I have a bunch of orcs. I have this like 5 copies of the same orc mini that I've painted 3 times now, and it's like my benchmark to see how much better I've gotten, and I keep them, and I've got them all like lined up, and so like I decided that like every year I'm going to paint that mini until I got them all 5 painted. It's just
I'd like to see that progress.
Yeah. My first I usually have my first 2 pieces were the Ettins from Descent Journeyed into Darkness. Have you guys played that one? It's
yes,
yeah.
That's on my shelf right now.
So if you want to super practice, they're like not awesome models at all. But I mean, that was my kind of intro, was like, I'm a dungeon master. I like painting. Why don't I paint some pieces from that, and I can use those in game as fodder. And the Ettins have made a couple of jumps into my campaign. They've been stone giants and a couple of they've been a bunch of random things just as stand-ins. But that was the first thing that I really painted. But I usually keep those Ettins like on my desk facing me because they are so awful.
Yeah,
they're kind of like they're just the thing
like,
that keeps me
like
improving.
This guy here is from Blood Rage. This is one of the first minis that I painted when I started painting again a couple years ago, and he's just terrible. It's just a terrible paint job. But again, I keep him right there with all next to some ones that I'm a lot prouder of. Just to see, see what bad actually looks like when I think that I did a bad job on something.
Right.
I just started at hedge highlighting for the first time today. And there were moments where I'm like, hey, I can do this. And then 3 seconds later, I'm like, what did I just do?
Yeah, when 5 minutes later, you're like, man, that was a good line. And it's about a centimeter long. You're like, oh, man. How much more? Oh, my gosh. Like, and especially with GW, armor has to have 7,000 lines on it. There's just there's no end. I'm actually kind of trying to figure out how done I am with the base coat on this model.
There we go. One finished jump jet.
Okay, Lucha's got a question for us. Did you ever paint a miniature you really wanted to give color, even though it's not in your normal range of miniatures that you would normally paint? So, have you ever painted something just because you wanted to paint it? Yes. I will say definitively yes, I have. What about you guys?
Oh, yeah.
That's usually how I choose my minis.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I bought the base game and 3 expansions for the Fallout 4 skirmish game, which I will never play, and I know nobody else who even has the models. I just thought, wow, these are cool looking. And I bought a bunch of them, and I've painted a bunch of robots for like I bought a box of Protectrons and Assaultrons and Brotherhood of Steel because I just wanted to paint a whole bunch of power armor. That is literally the only reason I bought them, was so I could paint robots in power armor.
Have you seen Arena the Conquest?
Sounds familiar.
It's a Kickstarter. I just backed them. It's almost been a year now, I guess. They are a tabletop game, very much like the one you just mentioned. Not what is it?
The skirmish, like a skirmish game.
Yeah, what's the skirmish in the dungeon one you were just talking about?
You mean Descent: Journey into Darkness?
Descent: Journey in the Dark. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's sort of very similar to that, but with much higher quality miniatures that come with it, and over 100 hours worth of missions and everything. So I backed out on Kickstarter. $320 later, I'm waiting on it to deliver, but I'm gonna have so many awesome miniatures to paint when it gets here.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'll ever even be able to play it.
I have so many games on my shelf that I'll never play, but I got for like Blood Rage is one. I think I played Blood Rage one time, but I wanted the minis. So I have what's the Mansion of Madness or something like that. It's a Cthulhu game that I got to paint the minis.
And it is a really good game. I mean,
it is, and that one I've actually played several times. So
I was gonna say, I think the other thing that I've done actually recently, so I'm probably gonna be doing this on my channel very soon. We were at a vintage toy shop here in Indianapolis that actually some friends of ours. I met. You meet so many weird people at Gen Con and at convention in general. You just kind of run into people and you're like, oh, this is an interesting person that does interesting things. One of the guys makes his own like models, but they're of like his own toys. He makes his own plastic models for replica toys, and just a really interesting guy. And he works at the shop, and so we go in and we run into him, and he was like, "Oh, hey, you guys go to Gen Con," and we kind of knew each other through that. And they had a whole lot of Star Trek memorabilia stuff, which we have a lot of in our house. My wife and I are both pretty decent Star Trek fans. My wife more than I. She knows the name of every episode from Next Generation and
DS9.
DS9, yeah. She knows the name of every episode. I literally will tell her what episode I'm on, and she'll tell me the plot. But they had some of the original movie prop replica things, and one of the things I found was 2 unopened kits of the ships.
Nice.
The Vulcan shuttle ship and the Star Trek the movie Klingon battleship, the Klingon Bird of Prey. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I was like, how much? And they basically gave them to me for nothing because of how much they charged us for the whole box of stuff that we grabbed. Along with those, like, there was a couple of like little Star Trek figures or Star Wars figures that I found, and he was like, don't worry about it. And he just threw these guys, Obi-Wan and Darth Maul, he just threw in for free. Nice. I was like, cool. Because again, I have no idea what the game is that they came with, but I just wanted to paint them. So I'm probably going to be doing some building and painting of some Star Trek model ships soon, which is a whole different world of model painting, but I am very excited to get into it.
Daquin does that, right?
Daquin, yeah.
Daquin, yeah.
Yeah, I believe he does. I've not. We've talked models before, but I don't remember what his thing is, because I've not done any like realistic models. All the stuff that I do is spaceship and sci-fi junk, because I have a mild obsession with sci-fi tech That's kind of the thing I like the most, is doing sci-fi tech like robots and power armor and things like that, and then fantasy models, gritty models, things like that. I have a weird combination of things.
That's one thing I was hoping to do this summer is unfortunately all the cons got canceled, but you know, in previous years when I'd go to cons and I'd see those old collectible toy vendors, and I'd be like, I'd love to have some of this stuff. I don't know what I'd do with any of it, but I had hoped to go get and dive through some bins and find some stuff to repaint. That's something buddy of mine did it with. He repainted a bunch of old He-Man figures.
Oh yeah.
And I was, that would be fun to do. I think go get like some old GI Joe figures or something like that, and just reskin them basically.
Fenway, Jordan has a request. She wants you to talk, and she wants to see your dragon, and we also want to see your dragon.
I mean, I'm working on the wings right now.
The wings are the best part. I like. They look very good.
Thank you. I mixed black and like a dark blue to make like a dark navy blue, although I don't think you can see it on camera, but that's what I'm doing the edges of the wings with. And then I blended a really light teal and a really light blue for the inside of it.
There's a my favorite like dark blue comes from P3. It's called Coal Black, and when I did mine, I based the whole thing in that Coal Black, and then I built my colors up from there. It's just a great color because it's like I use it for both. If I want something that's going to end up going from like a dark blue to a very, very high light blue, you can get a really nice range of colors. Instead of starting from black, I start from that Coal Black. But also when you want to do like highlights on black, because painting black, you're basically just painting various versions of lighter black or black mixed with lighter tone colors. And it's a really good like non-black on top of a black cloak or something. I literally have used half that pot in like the last 6 months, and it comes in the big P3 pots that are like double the size of a Citadel pot. It's one of the other things I love about P3. Their pots are big, and they are the same price or cheaper than most Citadel pots. And
nice.
I've never used P3, and I've heard such good things.
I'm falling in love with everything they do. The only problem is that they just don't have enough. First off, shout out, hi Monk, thank you for joining us. Let's see. There was a question about where does one get minis. So there are many places, but in the world of COVID, I usually stick with like Miniature Market when I can, because they are fairly cheap and they will do shipping well. But also I strongly suggest when able to support your local friendly game store if you have one.
And check your game store's websites, because a lot of them are doing curbside pickup right now. That's where I've gotten a lot of stuff lately.
I had to boycott one of the local game stores recently just because they refused to close until they were forced to. And they were doing Friday Night Magic with like 40 people in a very small basement. And I was like, this is a very bad idea, guys. So let's just not do that. But I found another store that has more paint, so I'm happy. And that store also completely redid they shut down. Completely redid their layout so that they they're at half capacity, and they also hoping.
Literally 2 weeks before everything shut down, I found out that we actually have a 40K store. That's a GW 40K store in the town I live in. One, I didn't know that was a thing until I found that there was one locally, but they had only been open for like 6 months. and I found them like 2 weeks before everything shut down, and I haven't checked to see if they're open yet or not. But next time I need GW stuff, that's where I'm going to go.
Our store just opened back up. Went in yesterday. No idea what I was going to get. Null oil. That's all I want. All I want. Just want to get some null oil. I don't want to wait for shipping. No. I had to walk out of there with a $160 model kit of Age of Sigmar.
Man,
That's what you get when you ask questions.
I would say the best way to buy anytime anybody asks me about getting into minis, my first question is, do you play board games?
Right.
Because if they say yes, then I will direct them to one of the many board games out there that in that $75 to $100 range, that you get a good board game to play and a whole bunch of minis to paint. And they're usually not the greatest detail, so they're a good starter mini.
But also, like, most of the D&D board games that come with miniatures comes with, so price range, right? If you're looking at it, you buy a $50 board game that comes with 48 miniatures. So you're paying roughly $1 a piece per miniature. So, and you also get an entire board game with that.
Right.
That is a really, really, really good price point. And if you're a dungeon master, you instantly have a bunch of baddies to throw at people, and you don't have to worry about like collecting so many of one kind. Because if you like, that'll come like with the dragon one. I can't remember what the name of it is, but there's one that comes with a lot of like dragony bits, and it comes with like 12 kobolds. And I was like, I don't see a reason why you would need much more than 12 kobolds in a universe. So, I mean, I'm sure I could find a way to use them, but that's a great place to be. And now you've built out not only a better looking game because you have the board game, but also you can reuse those. And my first probably 20 odd miniatures that I painted were because of reusable properties. I could find a way to reuse the model in D&D or in another setting.
Right.
Only recently have I really just gone, that's fun, and I want to paint it, and painted it. I still have plenty of D&D models that I want to do, and I have a nice ever-growing pile of shame that stares at me and says, "You're supposed to paint me." But that's a great way to start if you're wanting to get if you wanted to get a brand new start and get going, or do what Fenway did and just walk in and be like, "Big dragon, go."
Well, I've painted other minis before.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying that is all, but both are legitimate. You can just go and find yourself the biggest dragon you can.
And building on that point too, starting with something large is a really good way to practice. It's a lot easier to paint, especially the D&D stuff, especially like the giants and some of those figures. I thought I was able to paint those a lot better early on than these 20 millimeter ones. So finding something big is not necessarily a bad idea.
My biggest issue with big is big flat spots. My suggestion, if you want to get started and you want to do it and you don't have a very high attention span, which we were talking about earlier, just to kind of get you hooked, but because really that's the thing, is once you're hooked in it and you really want to paint, then the attention span gets longer and longer the more you do it. But that first couple of times, find something that's decent sized, like a 32 millimeter miniature, or if you're doing D&D stuff, something in the large to huge range, or of model size, and with lots of texture, because you can do a lot of really simple dry brushing techniques after you've done your base coat that instantly add pop to the model and doesn't require a lot of effort. So, I mean, a dragon is a really good place to start because scales have a lot of texture. The biggest thing you're worrying about as far as flat spots is is coloring, right? You don't want it to be a flat color. You want to have some sort of dynamic to the wings. So that's a little harder, but it's really not that.
Yeah.
There's also some simple techniques to make that easier too. But the problem I had was that I thought, oh, I'm going to be really cool. I'm going to wet blend on my first model, and that was a stupid idea. That was a really bad idea. I watched too much YouTube when I first started.
Blaine, Squidmar, and Miniac, right?
Yeah, and Adam, and who else was I watching? I don't remember now.
Black Magic Craft.
Yeah, Black Magic. Yeah. Maybe Black Magic. I watch all of it. I watch it all.
Yeah.
I also watched V and MTD and a bunch of other fun places where they did more than just models, which was very helpful. Because then it was like, I really liked watching V because she was like, forget about buying expensive paints. I'm just going to use Apple Crate for everything. And her models still look amazing. And I go, I don't understand you. I can't get Apple Crate or any cheap paint to thin enough to be usable. I don't understand. I don't understand her technique. She has magic powers, but that's why she's V.
Jake's the same. That's what Jake usually uses too, is Applecraft stuff. And I was able to. That's what I started off with. I was able to get it usable. I just don't have the patience. I'm the guy that will pay 3 times the cost for something that will save me some time in the prep, so I can get to the painting. I didn't like having to spend all the time thinning out and mixing paints. I mean, I will mix colors, but once I realize that I'm having to consistently mix colors to get the same color, I'll just go out and buy the one that I'm actually looking for.
Yeah,
I'm just impatient like that.
I've pretty much stopped blending altogether, and I just I try to find a nice variety of paints in similar tones, because I kind of talked about this in one of the classes that I did, is that I am a horrible note taker. I will take notes so that I know the exact name of the bottle that I used.
Right.
but being able to go back and reblend exactly what I did the one time, that's hard for me, and I have to be really, really detailed. And so, like, I was recently doing an ombre or umbra effect on a set of models, and so I had to be really, really careful with like changing out my palette. You know, whenever I changed my palette paper, I had to take a picture of the palette paper so I could come back, make sure that I blended it in the same way so that I can take from the same spots, kind of thing. So it was pretty, it was much harder for me doing that sort of blending. I would much rather have a specific set of colors and go back and just build up from that variety. So I do have a lot of paint in this space right now. But also, like, that's where joining a hobby community, like either online or in person, whichever you have available to you, is a really great option. Because I've picked up paints dirt cheap from people within the community who have had stuff that they just wanted to get rid of, or somebody had bits that they were getting rid of, or they had started to prime a model set and decided they didn't want to do it, changed their mind, and they so you find people have stuff out there that you probably will get to, and so you're like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna that sounds like something I'd be interested in, and make a swap, figure out something that works, and usually it goes pretty well. So yeah, there's lots of ways you can get models. Somebody mentioned Scythe in there, and that's one that I've been wanting to paint for a very long time. I don't have the game, but I really want to get it just for the models. I also really liked the models from I'm horrible with names, but the Alien board game that was on Kickstarter. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Yes. I don't know.
I will look up title. Let's
Grimmer
see.
Space?
What was that?
Grimmer Space?
No. That much I'm
Or
familiar.
do you actually mean like?
Alien, like based on aliens.
Yeah,
Yeah, see, I don't know titles. I just know the Alien game from Kickstarter, and
the
I know what you're talking about.
Xenomorphs.
Nemesis. That's the one. Nemesis has gorgeous models, and there's one of a brood queen, and I want to paint it so bad. She's standing on like a grating, lifting it open with a bunch of baby xenomorphs jumping out of it, and I'm just like,
Ooh.
I want to paint you all. And they just did another Kickstarter for a new expansion. I'm like, guys, stop. I need to catch up first. I need to actually buy the original game before I can do this. And I don't have $400 to spend. And yeah, the Queen model is a 97 millimeter tall piece.
Oh, wow.
So it's a 32 millimeter scale game, but they've got some really beautiful, really detailed, huge models that I'm drooling over at this moment, actually. And the expansion looks really cool now. Man, I need a better job. Okay.
Oh, you just need to eat top ramen for like 6 months.
Yeah, that doesn't work so well with my kids. Even if I did just eat that, they would still eat me out of house and home.
The first joke that popped in my mind was, the kids eat?
My kids do, man.
My kids never stop.
Yeah.
Yep.
I gotta find a second job because I got a 5-year-old that's gonna put me in bankruptcy by the time he's a teenager.
Right?
That's how my littlest brother is. He's 4 and eats everything.
I mean, when my baby were born, and I was spending like, $3 to $8 a week on baby food, I was like, oh, what are people talking about? Kids aren't
It's
expensive.
nothing.
Not yet.
Well, it's like the first few years you spend all your money on diapers, and then you're like, oh, they're out of diapers, yes. But now that's when they start eating.
No, hell yeah. With my kids, the problem has become that my daughter just turned 5 and she's just getting out of pull-ups, but she some days she eats everything and some days she eats literally nothing, and she's just like, nope, I'm good, and just holding out so that she can have like 7 million chicken nuggets for her entire day.
It's pizza rolls for my 5-year-old.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And I'm like, we are not buying that many. Like, I went through one day. I was like, if you had your way, you would have already eaten like 70 chicken nuggets in this one day and nothing else. There's nothing okay about that. Not to mention the fact that like chicken nuggets after a certain point, they are kind of expensive once you look at the per piece price point.
My son only wants to eat bread.
Hey, that's not bad. I'll trade you. Bread can be cheap if you really try.
Yeah, but then your kid starts getting sick, and they're not getting any nutrition.
That's true.
Like, come on, eat some vegetables. Do something.
No, I've gotten lucky. My son, he's 7.5. He really likes to try everything, and so I've gotten lucky in that, like, I got him hooked on curry. He likes curry chicken, so I could, yeah, exactly. I was like, sweet dude, this is gonna be fun. And then I came home one day with bulgogi from the Korean barbecue down the road, and he just started like scarfing it. I was like, hey, that's my bowl.
Right.
I didn't buy any for you because I didn't know if you wanted spicy beef, and he was like just devouring it. So I was like, well, that's cool. That means we can order from Korean when we get the chance, and I don't have to wait until we have a babysitter to have good Korean barbecue.
See, chat. This is why you need to ask questions, because now we're talking about feeding our children spicy food. Just saying, because I mean, like my kid, like 4 months old, and he's wanting to eat flaming hot Cheetos. Like,
My son likes buffalo, but he doesn't like anything else spicy. And then I bring home bulgogi, and he was like scarfing it. I don't understand. Like, it's a very specific type of spice that he wants.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that cayenne pepper spice. Ooh yeah, Bella. That dude, seriously, that is the stuff right there. The bulgogi egg and cheese combo. I also like mine with ours. They usually do bulgogi with bean sprouts and kimchi. They usually do a side of kimchi for me, which is awesome. Dwight, can you lower your camera?
I moved back on, I think.
Yeah. I was gonna say.
I tend to do that sometimes, where I get working on something, I pull it in close and
yeah,
pull
I
it
actually.
right off the camera.
It's one of the reasons I changed my camera setup recently. I'm debating on what I want to tackle next. I think I'm just gonna keep doing little details in blue. I have no actual goal in like color scheme on this, other than blue and orange are my favorite colors. I grew up an Illinois fan and a Bears fan, so I'm just doing orange with blue and white details. And I might just do like metallic silver instead of white, but something in that ballpark.
My brother is upstairs playing Minecraft. He's almost 8. He's playing Minecraft on his iPad, and I can hear him yelling at his iPad about getting.
Sounds like my nephews. Constantly screaming about something on Fortnite.
Oh yeah. See, we don't let him have, or my parents, I guess, don't let him have Fortnite or any of that sort of stuff. He just has Minecraft, which is his favorite thing ever.
I got my son hooked on the Zelda,
Mm-hmm.
the new one from
Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an excellent. I can actually play it myself, but I like to watch my wife and my kids play it.
I enjoy the game a lot, but my son, when he first started playing it, he realized that you could catch horses, and that's what he did for hours.
Yep.
And it just made my entire day to just watch him catching horse after horse after horse. Or then getting mad because he couldn't catch a horse that was too hard, like too high of a difficulty, and he didn't understand why he couldn't catch it. And he was like, Dad, catch it for me. And I was like, no, this is your job. You're the one supposed to be having fun right now.
That's funny. No, you have fun, not me.
I have to when he gets. There are plenty of times where he gets stuck on things in games where he's like, Dad, come fix this. And I'm like, no.
This is how you learn. I do the same thing with my son. Yep.
But then before long, he's like, he comes to me, he goes, hey Dad, can you explain how this works? And he's like at a dungeon boss. I was like, how did you even get there?
Yeah, that's the problem I have. Like I made my son fight his own battles, and now he's better at video games than I am.
Yep.
Man, really?
You're like, oh man, I should have held your hand more, because then Dad could still best you.
Or you could learn his tricks.
Nope, I'm no good at that. My brother proved to me that once I'm behind on the skill curve, I pretty much am done. Halo taught me that a long time ago.
Oh.
I learned one trick. That's pretty much it. I'm good at that. With Halo, it was I was a master grenader, just tossing nades in random places and hitting people for no reason. And that's what I did. And then they started turning the grenades off on maps, and it made me real sad.
I got 2004. I actually went semi-pro on Halo 1 tournaments, and like that was legit. It was like being able to hit someone with a plasma grenade, like, and then hit them again while their body's flying through the air. That was how I practiced.
Right.
Like that was all the game was to me. Those plasma grenades, man, and the shotties. Those shotties. Were...
Yeah. Mine was just getting that proper bounce on a frag grenade. Like that was like key. If you can get that good bounce and then it just pops over somebody's head, great way to set them up for the second shot. We've got some questions. Let's see. Have you ever tried to paint a model just like speed paint? Have you ever just done speed paint, like a speed painting? For me, I feel like I'm always speed painting. Not that it's like I'm successful at it, just that
you try.
Yeah, exactly. I'm always trying to go fairly fast. Especially when I'm painting by myself and just like doing the hobby. I'm not really trying to speed through it, but I'm also not gonna. I don't want to spend too many hours on a model because I have a million more models that need done.
Also, Chet only has one speed, and that's awesome. So,
how about you guys? You guys do any like legit speed painting?
No, not really.
Not on minis.
I would call it speed painting, but like when I did my Legion Stormtroopers, that was a pretty quick paint. You know, it was just a base coat of gray with some white zenithal highlights, and then just painted in some details. So it went very quickly. So I don't know. I'd call it a speed paint, but I wasn't looking for detail. I was just looking for something that was going to look nice on the table.
Yeah, I've done some batch painting. Like
yeah.
I had a game that I was running that as a dungeon master, and I was running the dark dwarves, the Duragar, is that their
Duragar.
name? Yeah, I grabbed some standard dwarf models from Reaper, and then went through and did a ton of Duragar bases, basically, just the basics. And I did all that really, really fast because it was like for a thing that I was doing in like 3 days. So I just blasted through it as quick as I could. I really wasn't looking to get super detailed. But yeah, I mean, I've done some batch painting like that. Monk wants to know, Corey, how often you use the airbrush, or you said that was a recent acquisition, right?
Very recent purchase. In fact, these are basically the first miniatures I've ever done with an airbrush. I used to just rattle can. And really only for primer at that. I picked this up at the hardware store. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's gray primer from Rust-Oleum, and I thought it was flat gray. This would be great. This is what I used to do with my old Reapers and everything. Just grab a flat black and go after it. And yeah, so that's not an acrylic paint, and when you put it through your airbrush,
yeah, you hurt my soul just a little bit when you showed me that can.
Yeah, that was. I killed 2 brushes in the making of that mistake, and I won't be making that mistake again.
Oh, what brush did you get?
What airbrush did I buy?
Yeah,
I bought the Master 2 actually.
Ooh, see, I started off with the economy Badger.
Oh wow! So you even spent more than I did. Mine's a $20 airbrush.
Yeah. No, my wife actually was doing the research, and she looked it up, and I was like, I thought I was getting maybe a $30 thing, and she bought a Badger, so I was like, Okay, well, I'm taking care of this thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
I will be upgrading into the Iwata HPCS as soon as I come up with $100 that I can actually justify to it, which means, hey, commission me.
So I think we briefly touched on this, but Lucha wants to know what our first models were, if you remember what they are, and what if so, what they were. I know, Dwight, you said you actually keep yours right there by you.
I think I have it. Yeah, let me see if I can find it real quick.
Yeah, I might actually, while you're doing that, I'll go grab one of mine.
My first miniature was a Reaper from, this was like 1996. It was just an elf that I picked up at a local gaming store. And I painted it into, it was my first D&D game, so you guessed it, Drizzt it to Erden. Because that's everybody's first character, right?
Right.
Back in the 90s, everybody's first character. But getting back into painting, I started with this druid and tried my hand at flocking once more. I don't think that's going to come through. Nope, probably not. It's bad. It's so bad. Come on. Let's block out the back. Yeah,
Mine aren't great. I have my two first models. This is my, skeleton. I don't even know what it is. Like a scarecrow skeleton thing. It's weird.
I like it.
And then some sort of wizard with a snake on his staff.
Nice. Are those metal minis?
No, they're plastic ones.
Okay, I didn't know what line they were. They look like Reaper.
They are Reaper, but
well, because again, I probably moved him. Somewhere I have a wizard that I was working on a while back, and he looks like the one you've got. But he came as a metal mini. So this was my first ever model that I painted. My Ettins.
Oh yeah.
And as you can tell, there's a ton of wash on this dude because that was the only thing that could have saved him was just dunking him in as much wash as physically possible. I also made an attempt at basing, which meh, but yeah, I wasn't he turned out very glossy, which was not what I expected. So I immediately stopped using the primer that I used on him because I hated it. Also, I tried my hand at doing some green stuff on this guy, which also was horrible. Because this did come out of a board game. I strongly suggest if you do start painting board game pieces, do get used to how to use green stuff if you can, because there usually are a lot of gaps, and decent green stuff technique is a good thing to have in your arsenal. And as a similar vein, this was one of my first really good basing pieces. I was doing some goblin archers that came from the same game. They're not super high detail and not the most amazing paint job, but I switched primers and I started using the Army Painter black matte finish, and I just love the stuff. It has been a super lifesaver for me. I pretty much use that on every single model. It's either I use the Army Painter black rattle can because the grit on that is so fine, it's really, really good for a rattle can, or the Vallejo black primer that I usually, I airbrush it on a lot of things, but I also have used it just wipe on, and it works perfectly. It's very thin when you put it through an airbrush. That's the only thing that I can say. Is you got to do a lot of coating on that after it dries.
So I've got these. So these are the orcs that I was telling you about. I've painted 3 of them so far. I've got 2 more that are unpainted, and I'm due to paint one this year. But this was, I want to say, about 3 years ago when I first started painting again. So this isn't my first ever mini, but this is the first one since I started painting seriously. I mean, it's garbage. It's just thick paint everywhere. You know, I can see what I was trying to do with it, but it's just not good. And then this was probably a year or so later, a little bit better. And this was probably, I want to say, about a year ago, maybe, that I painted this guy here. So you can see, if you look at all, I mean, there's noticeable progression in these 3. Like the technique for painting the chainmail. I just slopped silver onto it originally, and now here I've got a lot more of my, you know, black base coat, and then I just dry brush a metallic over top of it, and that looks really well. So yeah, this one I was pretty happy with. I'm curious what it would look like if I did it now. So it's about time for me to try again, I guess. But there's my orcs.
I simply decided that I just won't go back and do anything. My first few models were also out of that board game. I really don't care to buy it again. But also, even some of the early stuff that I wasn't super good at, I just like having it like there as part of the progression.
Yeah.
And I'll just pretend like that was a stage that I'm never going back to, you know.
Well, and I think it's important too, like, you know, I look at those orcs and it's like, oh, yeah, I can look at it now and see how terrible that looked back when I first started. But man, I was so proud of that when I first painted it. It's like, man, that's awesome. But
also, like, as you should, like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Is you should be happy that you're putting paint to model. Like, that is
Right.
part of the big thing in my book is not knowing all the techniques or having every tool. We were just talking about, like, I usually have my sable brush, my Winsor Newton, around, and I don't use it necessarily all that often, but you know, that's just something that I usually have with me for, you know, special details. But, you know, you don't need that. It's not a necessity. I've got plenty of other small brushes in my arsenal that I can use. That's just one that I like. But yeah, the biggest key is just put paint on a model and enjoy the process of putting paint on a model. Like, again, I really enjoyed the painting of this guy. I think that they, like, looked really, really fun to have on a table, especially because I was it was early on in my dungeon mastering with a group that we wound up playing for almost 2.5 solid years through a campaign. So I mean, I was pretty proud of just the fact that we were, you know, putting new and interesting things on the table.
Yeah.
Like I said, my attention span is very short. Well, not very short, but I did one of the wings, and then I moved on to the bottom half of the body, and now I've started the other wing.
Exactly.
Oh, that's exactly the way I paint Fenway.
I've started to try to make myself slightly more methodical about my choices, because I am horrible at taking notes, and if I don't get it all done in one go, I will have difficulty going back. But when I started these Wookiees the other night, and on Monday I was doing these, and I could have batch painted them and done all the, you know, base coats and then done all one color brown, but instead I decided just to line up the colors that I was planning on using and go model to model and kind of so I could make different choices. And so like in one model I was like, you know what, I'm gonna put some like red, kind of a reddy or orange color into the hair to give it kind of like that, like there's a little bit of ginger in there. And another guy I decided was going to be the grizzled old captain, so he's got a lot of gray. So I just kind of went model by model to pick choices because I wanted to play with it. I really didn't want to just have one uniform thing. More questions. Let's see. What's your least favorite color on a model? That's
on the model or on the application?
Oh, I know what you're going to say too. Whichever you choose. What? Go ahead, Corey. Tell us the horrible tale.
I mean, we all know yellow for what it is. And white has recently become a new favorite with the airbrush. If you don't know, it'll clog your airbrush in about 3 seconds flat.
I strongly encourage you buy one of the pots of P3's white. Their base white. It will change your life. I mean,
I need some life changing.
I'm just saying I use it out of the pot. I don't have to water it at all. It's the most magical white paint I've ever seen.
All right.
Sorry, continue.
On a figure, black. It's so matte and you can't pick anything out, and when you try and you're covering it, it's just going to take layer after layer after layer. So I don't like seeing black on a mini if I can avoid it.
Yeah, I would agree with black. Getting like shades and detail on something that's black is just so, oh, I hate it. So this, I'll show you this. This is when I just painted this a few days ago. This is one of the characters in my Monday night game, and she's a rogue assassin, and she just wears all black. So I'm like, how do I paint that? I can't, you go some more shades of gray over top of it, trying to get the the light reflections and stuff. But it's just so tedious, and nothing I've done has worked as well as I wanted it to.
Yeah, I would say black is a tough one. One of my early projects was doing the rogue black cloak sort of thing, and trying to get a good color. Like I said, I've kind of found some tricks in using not actual black, but moving up to like the greenish black or a bluish black sort of color to make those distinctions.
Yeah.
So I don't feel as uncomfortable with it anymore, but just because I found the right color to add to my arsenal to make it easier. I think that's it, because again, blending out from black is just so hard. The proportions of black, one dot of black in any other color, and you're immediately super, super dark, As for painting, that is a tough one. Oh, I can tell you what. Skin tone.
Yeah.
Period. It does not matter what skin tone, just any skin tone, because I've found some skin tones that I can use. I have not yet found skin tones that are easy to use or easy to blend. But yeah, that's kind of been my biggest issue, because especially if you have things that have large areas of flat skin, getting it to look right and not have it textured by either your primer or your paint making sure that it stays flat but still has a dynamic color range. It's really, really hard. And I envy anybody who's super comfortable painting skin tones, because yeah, it's tough. We also, let's see. Next question was, does everyone have their own preferences on paints? I'm sure we do, but I think a lot of people, it turns out it's whatever paint you can get. But do you guys have any favorites?
I am a big fan of GW paints for just the way that they paint and the way that they look, but not for the price.
Exactly.
I sunk a bunch of money into quite a bit of paints, but that will probably be the last time that I do that. I'm starting to explore others right now, but that's, again, it's just their whole product line just fits the aesthetic that's in my brain. So for things,
I personally haven't had the chance to experiment with most of different kinds of paints, because I have to buy my own paints, which isn't, I don't have a job because I run Jaspers,
right?
So it can be difficult at times.
So what you're saying is people need to donate you some paints ASAP.
Yes.
Need a paint sponsor.
Yeah.
Not a paint sponsor, because then that makes it feel like it's for Jaspers.
No, just for you. Just a personal sponsor. We need Reaper to be like, you know what? Fenway's so cool. We just need to send her like a giant box of paints.
I wouldn't say no.
Right, exactly. My suggestion would be grab like one of the Reaper like party boxes or something. I don't have any specific affiliation, but they have been really cool about like trying to help us do some of the Thread Raider events and like getting a hold of models, and they've been really nice people. And of course they've got cool models and they've got pretty decent paint. But my favorite right now, I pretty much everything P3 I've been pretty happy with. This is the first time I've used this orange, and it's one of those, because of the amount of yellow and red together, probably could have used a little more thinning than what I've done, because a lot of the P3 paints I tend to use straight out of the bottle with very little issue.
That's a high bar.
Yeah, no, that's exactly why I picked them, is because it's the least amount of effort. But the orange that here, it came out very, very thin, which was good, thin enough that like I definitely needed 2 coats at minimum. But the issue for me was just like it had a tendency to leave that like big deposit at the end of every stroke that was a little bit too thick and hard to then kind of lay down. But other than that, I've had a lot of great experiences with their colors being able to just coat on without having to be watered down. And that's a big, to me, that's a big add-on when you can use something straight out of the bottle and be happy with it. Vallejo is the only other one that I've had where I'm pretty comfortable using a lot of their stuff out of the bottle. But like I have some of their beige, some of their lighter yellow and white tones combined, which kind of is an automatic. But yeah, those still need to be watered down. I haven't had a chance to use any of the yellows that I got from P3 yet, but so far I would say I definitely love P3's line because I don't water it down. Citadel, I've used them straight out of the pots before when I was first getting started, because this guy was Citadel, all straight out of the pot, no thinning done. And I've never been super happy with the coverage. So
I've been really considering getting into Vallejo. I've listened to a lot of GM Lee.
Yeah.
And a lot of his streams and whatnot, he's using that. Now he's moving on to scale 75, which sounds incredible. I have no idea, though.
From what I've seen with scale 75, my big issue with scale 75 is how matte it is, which is not... That's saying something. Like that... I haven't gotten to use it, but what I've seen from it is that their stuff is very, very, very matte when it dries. And so... you have to, if you want something super smooth, you have to be right on top of it. Like you have to really keep the water flowing on it or something. I don't know how it works, but I would love to play around with it. But Vallejo, I've been fairly happy with. Mostly, I can use it out of the bottle to a certain extent. Some stuff I've had to really water down, but that's about it. We have 5 minutes left, guys, of our 2-hour painting stream.
Wow.
I know it's gone by really, really fast. Let's see.
While you're looking at questions, I will say GM Lay is amazing as a person and as a painter. He did some models for us last year for Jaspers. He did a giant green dragon, and it was just...
that was a really good model. That was pretty cool. Yeah, no, I've been following Lee for a while, and I got to meet him at PAX, and that was super, super cool. I got to talk to a lot of other painters, which was a lot of fun. There are definitely a lot better painters out there than myself, but there's also just a lot of people getting into the hobby, so don't be afraid to jump in and start doing stuff. Do we want to go ahead and we will outro? Does anybody have anything they would like to say to people before we get out of stream? About where they can find you, about anything going on in the near future besides obviously coming back and watching some more Oasis of Hope over the weekend? Corry, I'll start back with you.
I got nothing going on. I'm on a hiatus between streaming right now. I've actually I walked away from my previous group, and I have just been looking for sort of a new project. I was streaming some painting for a while there, but no, nothing really to shout out.
All right, Fenway.
Well, I mean, Jaspers is having some events coming up. We're going to be doing an online convention at the end of August.
Super excited for Jasper Con.
Yes, Thread Raiders is going to be streaming our celeb games, and we're going to be doing some games offline or not streamed, I guess, as well. And it's just going to be a lot of fun. And you can find me Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, JaspersGameDay.com, all of that fun stuff.
Yep. Yeah, if you're not following along with Jaspers, you really should. It's a really, really fun event because of the people, but also it's just an amazing, like now whole week. The Jaspers Game Week was just really fun. The amount of people getting together for a purpose was really really, really cool. I had a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, intern Dwight over there.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But we had just a bunch of great people involved, and people were like, hey, how can we didn't get it, like, we didn't get signed up in time, but is there another way we can help? And that's how we got a bunch of our donations, and it was a fantastic community event.
Sweet. And Dwight, how about yourself?
Yeah, like I said earlier, you can find me at Big Bearded Nerd on Twitter, and you can find me Monday nights on MTD Mini Train Domains Twitch channel. Every other twice a month, I'm playing in All That Glitters, the Dungeon the Mad Mage campaign, and on alternate Mondays, Jake and I do Beards and Brushes, where we do something very much like this, where we just sit and talk while we paint. So come check us out there. Yeah, thanks a lot. This is always fun. Well, glad to be a part. I'll be playing in Fenway's game on Saturday night for Thread Raiders here, so looking forward to that.
Yep. So yeah, and I'm Chet at Luke Thomas. You can also find me on Twitch, also Luke Thomas. I do commissioned miniature painting as well as just random stuff on my channel for fun. And I'll probably be there doing some more streaming. And I'll be back the rest of later on for more Oasis of Hope fun. And I'm usually around the Discord for Thread Raiders, hanging out, talking to people. When, of course, I'm not buried by my kids' wildness.
Right.
So thank you guys for joining us. It was a really, really good time. I'm super excited to get started on Oasis of Hope, and we get some more games going on this weekend. So come back and hang out with us some more. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.